The date is November 18th, 2023. We are at the Winston Branch Railroad crossing south of Millard, Kentucky. We are back again for the annual CSX Santa train. The CSX Santa train is a special passenger train that runs from Shelbyana, Kentucky to Kingsport, Tennessee, making plenty of stops along the way. Santa and his helpers on the train pass out gifts and Christmas supplies to all the residents along the CSX right-of-way. CSX usually uses their elegant business train to run this special passenger train. A couple of days prior, the CSX business train arrived in Kingsport, where CSX employees and Santa train helpers helped to load the train up with gifts and Christmas supplies to distribute along the route. Just before 6:30 p.m. on the 17th, the train left Kingsport, bound for Shelbyana, Kentucky. As the train made its way through the Appalachian Mountains, one of the engines suffered a traction motor failure, and the train was left stranded somewhere south of McClure, Virginia. Luckily, there was a southbound freight train waiting at the siding in McClure. So, the current president of CSX, Joseph, who was on the train at the time, ordered that the engines from that train come and rescue the Santa train. After rescuing the Santa train and arriving in Shelbyana, it was then decided that the engines from the freight train would now lead this year's Santa train. If I would have known this was going to happen, I would have saved the Rudolph music for this year. Anyway, this brings us to this morning. At the Winston Branch Railroad crossing, there is a siding that begins here, and it's covered by classic C&O signals. Although it's hard to see, there was a northbound freight train waiting in the siding here for the Santa train to come. Soon enough, we heard the horn in the distance and we got ready to watch the CSX Santa train. After seeing the train here, the next spot we saw the train at was at the Pound Creek Road Railroad crossing in Draffin, Kentucky. Here, I decided to set up on the driveway that leads up to the church in town here. Our next spot we set up at was at the BP gas station in Elkhorn City, Kentucky. Here we got set up to watch as the train crossed the Russell Fork River on the Russell Fork Bridge. Leading this year's Santa train was CSX 3323 and 3411. Both engines are GE ET44AHs, 3323 being built in 2015 and 3411 being built a year later. Right behind the pair was CSX 1 and 2, the railroad's pair of EMD F40PH-3s, which one of them had the traction motor malfunction. During CSX's operation of the Santa train, most of the time, CSX usually used 994310, formerly West Virginia, as its rear-end passenger car. It's now called the Jervis Legdon Jr. For this year's Santa train, a newly painted passenger car is on the end of the train, CSX 994528. 994528 is formerly Pan Am Railway's Business Car 100, which was acquired when CSX merged Pan Am into their system.
Merry Christmas!
The car was repainted into this special Santa train colored paint scheme at CSX's Waycross shops down in Georgia. It was also completely rebuilt on the inside to hold as many gifts and Christmas goodies just for the Santa train. As the train was pulling into Elkhorn City to drop off the gifts, we then relocated to another well-known spot south of town, Pool Point Bridge. It had been a little while since we were last here, and I'd forgotten how high the bridge actually was. In any case, after we got across the bridge, we then got set up to watch as the Santa train crossed the bridge and continued into the panhandle of Virginia.
Merry Christmas.
After getting back across the bridge and back up to the road, The next place we saw the train at was in Hasey, Virginia. Here, we got set up on top of the tunnel portal that led to the next stop on the Santa train. As we could see from atop the tunnel, many people were gathered here waiting for Santa Claus to arrive. Soon enough, the signal here changed from yellow to green, and a little bit later, the train exited the tunnel and pulled into Hasey, Virginia. As Santa and his helpers began to pass out goodies to all the people here, we then drove to the now abandoned Hasey Tipple on the west side of town. The old Hasey Tipple was where coal was transferred from dump trucks to the coal trains on the CSX main line. As of today, it is now abandoned, and the railroad has ripped up the siding that used to go under the tipple here.
You feel it shaking?
After we got set up, we then watched as the Santa train rolled out of town. After seeing the train here, we then drove to our next spot just southwest of Clinchco, Virginia. Just like back in 2018, we located ourselves a short way up the mountain alongside the Dickinson Highway /Route 63/83. Here, the railroad crosses both the highway and the McClure River before plunging into a tunnel to go through the mountain. As we waited for the train to come, more and more people showed up. As we were waiting for the train, a fire truck drove up along the road and blew its horn at us. While I was thinking about pulling out my drone here, I decided against it, but others decided to do so.
If I can find it in the... Oh, I did.
Look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power. Think, Johnny, think.
They're...
Please tell me you recorded that.
Yes. I think they're recorded us too.
Soon enough, the train came across the bridge and entered into the tunnel. Once we got off the mountain, our next place we saw the train at was at the Carter-Stanley Highway / Route 643 railroad crossing. Here at the railroad crossing is another siding, and in the siding was CSX 3323 and 3411's freight train. Soon enough, we heard the horn in the distance and got set up to watch as 3323 and 3411 passed their previous train. The next place we saw the train at was at the mouth of the Sandy Ridge Tunnel in Tremel, Virginia. There used to be the beginning of a siding here, but sadly, CSX removed it recently. Despite removing the siding, all the old signals here remain. Now this dwarf signal here protects nothing but ghost trains of Christmas past. Anyway, I decided to set up down the tracks to see the train pass the old signals here. Soon we heard the Christmas train blowing for the railroad crossing at the Phillips Hollow / Route 626 railroad crossing, and we got set up to watch the train roll into the tunnel.
Merry Christmas, y'all. Y'all be safe right next to the railroad tracks, okay? Merry Christmas.
After finding another way to say this, the next place we saw the train at was just south of the Denver Street Railroad crossing, which was just off of the Daint Mountain Road / Route 63, northeast of St. Paul, Virginia. Here was another set of old but unique Clinchfield signals still protecting a siding here. Using the last spot as an example before CSX removed the siding, usually when signals are set up at the beginning or ends of sidings, the signals are usually set up next to the track it governs. Back in the age of steam, it was usually set up on the right side of the tracks so that the engineer could read the signals. In this case, the dwarf signal here at Tremel protects the siding, while the regular signal here protects the main line. But here at the Denver Street Railroad crossing, things are different. While the dwarf signal here still protects the siding here, the regular signal next to the dwarf protects the main line. The way they let the engineers know that the regular signal protects the main line here is thanks to the dial arm on the regular signal. The dial arm on there indicates that there is a track in between the signal and the track it governs. In this case, the siding here is the track in between the regular signal and the main line it protects. This was a product back during the steam era, but in the present day, dial arms are disappearing from today's main lines. CSX's predecessor railroads, such as the Clinchfield, were the ones who mainly used this method. Soon we heard the rumble of the Santa train in the distance and got started recording.
No, you're good. Thank you. Right.
Please don't.
After seeing the signals here, we then drove ahead of the train and got set up on the Sinking Creek Highway / Route 65 overpass in Dungannon, Virginia. Here the railroad goes under the road through a small cut. As we were waiting for the train to come, we then saw a small red fox run down the tracks.
Look at the fox.
Oh, wow.
That fox going to beat it.
Run.
A little bit after the fox vacated the rails, the Santa train then pulled into Dungannon. The stop was just around the corner, right behind the camera. While the train was stopped in Dungannon, we decided to go to an open field along the Veterans Memorial Highway / Route 65/72 southwest of town. Here we saw the train as it made its way through the Clinch River Valley. I also decided to get out my new drone here to try it out. As soon as the drone got down from the air, we then drove directly to the Copper Creek Viaduct. The Copper Creek Viaduct is an impressive, high-level, deck-plated girder bridge. Built in 1908, it still carries the trains of CSX across its namesake creek. I also decided to get out my drone here as well, but no fancy flying this time. Besides me, there were plenty of other drones high in the air as well as a glider flying around here. Soon enough, we heard the rumble of two GEs in the distance and got set up to watch as the Santa train crossed over the impressive structure. After seeing the train here, we then drove to the end of the Santa train line in Kingsport, Tennessee. Here there were plenty of engines and some trains waiting in the yard. Also waiting here was the W. Thomas Rice, one of CSX's business cars. When the train gets here, this coach will be placed at the end of the train for its return journey back to Jacksonville. There was also a big party going on here as well, with lots of folks waiting to see Santa arrive on the Santa train. We decided to set up behind the old Kingsport station to wait for the Santa train to arrive. Soon enough, we saw a pair of headlights coming in the distance and got set up to watch as the Santa train pulled into town.
00118 over.
70118 Andy.
Yes, can you let me know when you head in past the crossing up there, over?
You know when we pass what, the crossover?
Yes, can you let me know when to head in past the crossing up there here in Kingsport, George? Over.
Okay, the crossing, understand.
Oh well, not all shots can come out perfect. Once the train came to a stop, Santa Claus, along with Joseph, disembarked the train and made their way to the stage set up on Cherokee Street.
Santa, we've got snow for you. We got everything. How'd it go?
I'd just like to welcome Kingsport. Thank you for coming out today on this beautiful day that God has made. You couldn't ask for a better one. Had a wonderful, safe train today. My new best friend, Mr. Joe Hendricks. This is the guy right back here that brought the Santa train back and into the future. So let's win him a house. And he's got a big team behind him with here. And I can tell you that right now that CSX is behind the tradition. This is the 81st running. Thank you, Joe. I'd like to give you the microphone.
Well, thank you, Santa. And thank you to all our friends in Kingsport. On behalf of our 22,000 employees in 26 states at CSX, we want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving. You may see this year we've added a Santa train car at the back of the train, actually where Santa was for the last 10 hours or so. But more importantly, with all the partners we sponsored today, we just want to say thank you for all of your support. We hope you have a great holiday season, and CSX is proud to be a part of this for 81 years, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.
And you know what this bag holds? My letters to Santa. They're going back to my elves tonight.
$55.
Can't tell you how much it means to be up here on the stage with you, and I'm going to try to wander around over here after I get off the stage and slap a few hands and see a few children and all and families. But thank you for coming out again. Thank you, Morgan. You've been a long-time friend of Santa Claus and a background elf.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. We've been waiting all day. Look at that. Let's say hello to Santa. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Hey, everybody wave. You're going to be in a picture.
Thank you, Joe. Now, the Santa train tradition is, and he just earned the Ed Moore Award this year, was when somebody hollers, "Santa train, what comes back?" Now, let's try that one more time. Santa train, you got it. Love you, Kingsport. Merry Christmas.
After the party was over, Santa Claus then flew back for the North Pole to ready himself for Christmas. We then proceeded to a spot along Lincoln Street to watch as the now CSX Office Car Special began its journey back to sunny Florida. We had a lot of fun on this trip, and despite the hiccups, the workers of CSX managed to keep the Santa train rolling. Well, this brings us yet to the end of another video. I hope you guys enjoyed this holiday video. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. See you later.